Hello and welcome to the skating lesson. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Jonathan. This is the skating lesson. We are going to discuss all things going on in the figure skating world this last week. So if you are new here, please subscribe below, smash that like button, and ring that bell for notifications. Jonathan, you are color coordinated between your vase and
Thank you.
your sweater today. I'm getting like a real comfortable Frank Carroll teaching vibe slash like with the calmness of Mr. Rogers, but more fashionable. But there's a calmness.
Amazing. Thank you. It's something I'm trying to evoke, not something I'm currently experiencing.
Oh, okay.
I think actually both of our colors, I was always that annoying student that would never buy the regular markers. I always had to buy the bold colors because they were different. And that's very much, I think, what our color scheme is between you and I. Mm-hmm.
I am a bold, dark person in my colors.
Yeah.
That stripes, the whole deal, but that's what I look best in. And then when I do, people will comment on my colors, and then when I wear something else, I'll be like, yeah, but I think those other colors are better on you. All right?
You found what worked, Dave, and I think that's great.
I do well in the summer. I do well in like a deeper turquoise, not a lighter turquoise, but I'm just letting you know in case you wondered, right?
I did.
So we had junior nationals this week, and I have to tell you, it evoked feelings in me.
Same, maybe different ones.
It reminded me of when I was snowed in at St. Paul Nationals. I had a breakup. I was remembering this. I had a breakup at the end of that trip. And it was just like, you're just like in a bad mood, right? And then we couldn't fly out.
Right.
For like, I think it was 2 days, my flight was delayed. And because there was a snowstorm on the East Coast, right? And it just felt like you were at the party ended, and you're still there.
Right.
And now the next party is coming in, and you have no... I'll never forget it because it literally was like because it was the host hotel for figure skating nationals. And then the next day it changed, and it was now the host hotel for like the 3M corporation, like Scotch tape or whatever they make.
Incredible.
There's like a weird, the party's over vibe. So why do you think they did it to get the seniors in first in case nationals couldn't last 2 weeks and they had to cancel it at any moment, right? That they could get.
Yeah, I was peculiar why they flip-flopped it that way, because we're of course accustomed to the juniors going first and often in a whole different rink. So I mean, I felt like actually for the juniors this was probably a nice opportunity to compete in the same rink.
Yeah, and sometimes the juniors do compete in the same rink and the novice go in the smaller rink, but things have changed over the last 2 years. One time they had like intermediate competing and at nationals, and then the next year they don't have everyone, and they go back and forth with that. Hopefully they will bring that back because I think that it is kind of missing something in participation. Even though I know that maybe it's more expensive, I just worry about the future of the sport and the competitiveness and things like that. I know that they're trying to help the summer competitions do well, and I think that there are ways to do that and still hopefully have people compete. And I think it's just like a really big opportunity for the skaters who make it as well. It's also an opportunity for their parents to lose their minds and go crazy and think that once they win juvenile or intermediate, that the Olympics,
they're all set. Yeah,
they're all set, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that does happen. So, and
you know who left the party though? And was not seemingly there for the junior event? Anyone who knew anything about technology. Because I don't know if you were following the score system, but there was like error after error in like the amount of time it was taking to receive the scores. And then they would put up the list, and often like the same person appeared in several places in the standings, and all of the numbers and names were mixed up often. I was like, where'd that guy go? It seemed to be working fine for the senior event.
That is very true. But that's why you need the same volunteers. You need the A-list volunteers, and you can get them to do the good event if they agree to do the B event, right? This is how you get people in. Same thing with judges. There was also a situation with those delays where there were a lot of under rotations. And remember, we talked about this in the seniors that, you don't want to destroy your skaters politically, but then there's also the opportunity for feedback and to give them the kind of information that they're going to need to know. And we talked about how there was that viewer who was debating with me about Alyssa Liu, and I said, by actually telling her that the jump is under-rotated, they're actually helping her because they haven't done this her entire career, and now she's in this situation where she's continued on this technique and never really been forced to change it because of the biggest competition of her careers.
Right.
At that point, they marked it clean, and it's been debated whether or not that was what actually happened in reality, right? Versus...
And this is also something you had mentioned with Mishin and Tuktumisheva when they were talking about PCS, but they would look at that year she won every competition and they're like, look, her PCS is fine. And you're like, right, but those weren't marked correctly. So now they're going to start marking correctly and you're going to wonder what went wrong.
Yes.
But the message could have been sent earlier. But also I think we have a bit of like Frank Carroll in our ear going into 2010 when he was so mad that they were marking Marai's jumps as under-rotated because he felt it was giving permission to the international judges to mark them under-rotated. But I have a feeling those international judges were going to call it that way regardless. So you might as well get a head start on correcting this situation.
Was, in that era, just to go back, in that era, for a jump to even be called under-rotated, it would be so devalued that it would be counting as a double, right? And that was the system when Rachel Flack got those downgrades, and getting a downgrade could really impact your results in so dramatically. And and I think that era and those punishments definitely put figure skating on a hyper-focused track. But looking at these skaters, there are skaters that are trying things and you think it's good, and then you look at it and you're like, well, I don't know if the technique is there. Like, at what point do you have to correct? And there were a lot of under-rotations in the junior event and some concerning things. But let's start with the winner, because she's very fascinating. She's one of the most buzzed about young talents, and yet there are positive and negative attributes to Isabeau Levito's skating. From an eye candy point of view, if this were just on TV, she's got the whole sass. She's got a beautiful air position.
100%.
She's like channeling Sasha Cohen. There's like a touch of Oksana in her.
But the posture, the extension, and she's listening to music like no one else is. Perhaps, she puts it all that. Yeah, I've never heard an English translation of that song, but okay.
Cringe, and she's a New Jersey girl, like Lindsay Thorn. So this is the skater. Remember, this has been Lindsay Thorngren's big rival for years. They both train in New Jersey, and they both train with coaches named Yulia. Now, I think that they need to train together because I don't think it's helping either one to be off in their own box, and I think that they both need other advisors in at this point. They're both in actually similar situations for different reasons. So
it's interesting because each one has what the other one lacks. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Although they both need speed. That is the one thing they both need. I think Isabeau needs Galina like they don't even know. And I'll tell you why she does. Because she has all the stuff that Galina loves, they can just like build on. And I'm not saying to fire the current coach. I'm saying that they should work with her maybe twice a week, maybe, and get her in there. Plus the fireworks between Lautua watching Isabeau work with Galina. That would be so epic. And those two go back and forth. They both seem like fighters. They both have strong personalities, for what I've heard in different ways. And I would just like I've heard that Isabeau is more of a show in training, and Lindsay's that like calm, gritty, like scrappy.
Well, I'm curious to get your take technically. So if all these things are true, when she opens and starts like the first minutes
the shoulder
of the
roll
program, is stunning. I love her skating, but then inherently something about the jumps, and I'm trying to pinpoint
something about
what
the jumps.
it
is as though she is coached by Caroline Zhang when she is going into her double axel or her triple flip or her triple flux. And it seems as though Isabeau feels like it's perfectly fine to come to a complete standstill before she jumps in the air. And that is a bad habit.
Do you think she's afraid? Is that
it's a nervous look, it's scarier when you do jumps from different areas of speed, right? And I even know this from my own attempts at like going and falling. It is a completely different timing. The faster you go, you have to adjust your timing to that jump, and it becomes akin to doing a new element. So when you are doing it much faster, it's much harder. And that's one of the reasons why you should reward it more points. When someone does a jump from more speed and there's debate about, well, does all the footwork matter if it's slow and that kind of thing. But when Patrick Chan is doing a quad from like so much speed and does an entrance into it, it should be worth the extra bullets on the IJS because it is infinitely harder to do.
Mm.
It is much
because
easier.
it almost looks sometimes Isabeau is going to abort the jumping pass. Do you know what I mean?
She does a little bit of the Atari twitch.
Yeah.
But like overdoes it to the point where it's like, oh no. Because I worry that if they do not make a change like tomorrow, maybe today, right? If they do not, and if someone is not telling them this, they are not doing them any favors. If Justin, in fact, the fact that Justin Dillon didn't tell them this, 2 years ago, makes me wonder if he is just another Mitch Moyer politician, and what kind of feedback are you giving them? Because if she does not fix this will be the last title she wins of her career, other than maybe the Gardenia Spring Trophy, right? Because she is at such a point in her career, and they didn't have a Junior Grand Prix this year to really rake her over the coals. But and she is so special, but this technique thing that she does is she comes to a complete stop before the double axel and then goes into it. And yes, it's like a comfort thing, right? But at the same point, it is not helping you in the long run. It's not helping you get a bigger jump. It's not helping you get rotation. It's certainly not going to help your scores on the international level. And she survived here in this field, but this is like the cap. And it just feels like they've been supporting her all along. Look, everyone's excited by this skater. She has that je ne sais quoi that you cannot teach, that you get, and you're so excited. And you're like, let's copy Sasha Cohen in every form and do the red dress for the short. Although
Malagueña, yeah, exactly.
For the creep, that's a different, Sasha only did that for a short. She should have copied the Christie version a little more. But this skater is so inherently special, but there are some pretty serious things that they need to address.
I left thinking, and I know that, I mean no offense by this, but it harkens back to when Jenny was talking about Alex Johnson. I was like, this looks like someone who could be a national title holder several times over in ice dance.
Not going that slow.
But I mean, well, fair, but then maybe we know partners that can help drag along their American female counterparts.
There is like a Katja Spielbond vibe to her. Yes. Look, she can do all like the Atari girls, she can do all the turns in the footwork. But can she do them on deep, fast edges? That's what I don't know. And I worry about her growing. Yeah. I worry about what happens when she grows 2 inches. Do all of the jumps go?
Well, because I
send this to a couple of coaches to get their view. And the only thing they said is, you have a good eye. They just like, no one wants to touch it, but everyone is like thinking about it because.
Yeah. And then otherwise we have one of those stories that are like this long, the names of people with these stories of like that amazing talent that never kind of materialized and everyone's confused why.
Oh, she is on track to being the next skater we talk about, like Caroline Zhang with the pearl spin. And why didn't this work out?
Yeah. Yeah.
She's exciting. She's musical. She's got extension. She's determined as all get out. And she's got some inherent problems. I love that Lindsay and Isabeau both have coaches named Yulia. That's great. We love that they're both from New Jersey. We love that they're both fixated on the other. Or certainly their coaches are. I think we're into all of this. But they both need areas to improve. And we talked about Lindsay last week. Also, I haven't heard from Yulia Laucheva since the episode. I don't know if she, even though you said it, if I'm getting blamed for that. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
I even texted her, if she wanted a student. I didn't hear back, Jonathan. So I'm just concerned, okay? And I am actually not she's quarantining anyway, because if you went to the competition, you have to quarantine. But I am quarantining because my dad came down with the coronavirus that he got from helping my nephew, which my nephew got from having to spend holidays and post-holidays with his other grandparents who go back and forth to the great state of Florida. Okay, that's just all I'm saying. And there's like, and we are just very lucky that Pete has it and not Debbie, because Debbie would not only be sick, she would be mouthing off like you don't even know.
She'd be ringing that bell, but for you to bring her something. Yeah, okay.
Like, it was so funny because I was talking to friends and I said, well, I don't think you understand like the complexity of the interfamilial political situation of like not just red and blue, but all
it runs deep.
Grandparenting, right? Of that would be going on in this situation. So yes, more to come on that situation. But
but fortunately, your dad is doing okay.
He's doing much better, to the point where he tried to go downstairs to work on a puzzle and Debbie lost her mind. And then what's so interesting is that I go back and forth between my apartment and my parents, and because I didn't want to quarantine alone and not see anyone for all of quarantine. And then we've just been in like a rhythm and we work out together. So I've been like helping my mom because it's also supposed to snow. And if it's supposed to snow, I want to, like, be able to, clean the driveway.
And fortunately, you and your mom just have avoided this altogether. Even being in the house.
Jonathan, I am the type of person where I am like very anti getting sick. Now, I know the theory that like when you get sick, it's like God ways of like, putting your body where you need to be, like maybe you need rest and have been overdoing it. And I think there are sometimes that is true, not the pandemic, right? Like there are times when you're run down and you get something and you're like, maybe I needed to slow down. But no, we are going full tilt. Around the clock.
It's a familial trait. Okay.
Airborne. No, my mom, when she found out that my nephew was positive, and like we were running out of like all supplies, and I was like, we need to stock up. This is before we even knew my dad had like a sniffle. Okay, at this point, airborne, zinc, Pepsid AC. Vitamin D and baby aspirin, because my former boss, who's very young, had a COVID related stroke. So we are just, luckily my dad takes baby aspirin every day anyway. So yes, we have been doing this and my dad has been in the house. But I have to tell you that I work out with Igor Studio, with Igor and these great workouts and Kristen. And it's like a mind in the game, because of course, just so happens that on Tuesday, Igor was doing some like killer workout, like things that he put in, and on Thursday, so I've been like sore from that, and like my SI joint has been like a little funky. So of course, those are like, you're like, oh, do I have aches? And I'm like, do I have real aches or do I have exercise aches?
Yeah.
And then like, I have to tell you, the stress is mentally draining, but at the same time we also just came off of nationals where we did multiple live shows a day for 3 to 4 days straight, and then also did this and that, and also my regular job, and I also had to produce things which I wound up producing virtually from this chair, even though other people were in a studio, and I produced it over Zoom for work. So the amount of like stress and exhaustion and like things that are going on when you're that in go mode is exhausting. So but at the same time, I've been sleeping a lot and not being like run down. Like I'm very much into like taking care of myself. But so far I tested negative, and I'll do another test and my dad's feeling better. But yeah, that is kind of the update. I was supposed to get my program this week, so I was disappointed obviously to not be getting it, but then I've had so many other things going on to occupy my mind that I'm like,
right
I have like another,
and you want to be in a headspace, a creative headspace, which needs all that other stuff to be kind of subsided. I think
it might have all worked out in timing wise, because I was debating whether or not, this is so funny how crazy adult skaters are, but the thing is, they moved adult nationals from April to June. Now when I competed at the bronze level and I was fourth. We've joked about the pewter. I've since, like, I skated a little bit since that time, then I didn't, then I came back, and I've been working since last year. I'm really at the silver level, right? Like if I look at like what my skill set is, but I haven't taken the silver test yet, and I'm also wasn't planning a program, so I have like this much stamina like on the ice.
Right.
So even though I work out all the time, it's very different when you run your elements together. So I was like, well, I was having a debate of like, do I try to put a silver program together and just do it? Like, are they just going to wind up moving? They're going to have to move this test date back, right? Like, this makes no sense to keep it the old test date, but then move the competition. And this is the problem with like too many committees in US figure skating and no one being logical and everyone just like sending you like, even the way the wording was the wording in the email about this was that like they were apologizing and trying to excuse it, but like deep down knew that it was crazy to like not
Right.
move the testing date, because it was like worded as in consider yourself lucky to be on the ice and blah blah blah, and you're like, okay, so that is apologizing
Right.
and trying to
Yeah.
spin. So, and I think there are some really good people involved that are like, well, we always do it February 1st. This is not a normal year.
Right, of course.
Improve, you know.
Look at what's happening on the international stage in the sport, and then like
the people who would ever like say that I was trying to sandbag are the same people that would hate me anyway. So I'm like, you know what? It's my first time competing in 7 years. No intro competitions. So we're just gonna go with it.
Yeah.
It would actually be easier musically, Jonathan, if I could just cut 20 seconds out of the piece of music that I'm doing instead of a minute, because this has been a nightmare piece to edit because it repeats but changes key, and it doesn't make sense when you edit it certain ways, and I want to keep the slow part in to show how.
It's tough. The music editing is very tough. I mean, so sometimes when we talk about these music edits that are so atrocious, I mean, I understand why it's so complicated, but like you're saying, the fact that you know that even though it repeats but changes keys to a non-functional transition, that you have to keep adjusting it is where you are different than seemingly lots of others.
So first Igor edited it, and I was like, oh. So then I had two friends look at it. One is one of my like best friends who lives in Canada, and he's very obsessive about gymnastics floor routine music, and he will listen to a piece of music that he likes, ask me, do you know what piece this is? And I'll be like, how do I know? This is your area, right? He will then buy the music, recut it himself to match the actual music that is on. I mean, this is an intense level.
Yeah, that's next level. That's next level. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds just like the real version. So he took a stab at it, and then my friend Erin Helms-Reen, she is a musician, of course, so she has that obsessive compulsiveness. So they both did 2 edits, but I'm gonna hire Hugo to just like go over it and maybe add a note or 2 or something. Because Sandra listened to it and she's like, I think you should add something here, and this is here, and then maybe, the whole deal. So anyway.
You got some stellar advice coming in there.
Listen, Jonathan. Only the best.
She is serious. Yeah.
It works out, it all. It's okay.
But to bring it full circle, I'm glad that your dad is doing well.
He's doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was, the other day I could tell he was feeling much better because he was trying to get his guitar from downstairs. And it was like, Typhoid Mary, we will get it for you. Go back in there. Okay, what are you doing? Like,
yeah.
But yes, the mental stress of when someone has it, I mean, it's a lot. My sister did get it, but my mom slept in bed with my dad last weekend before. They never thought it was, okay, so this is what happened, is that they never thought that, first of all, my parents have been like super, super careful, but they do go to like the grocery store, but the only people we see besides each other is my nephew, so like, and my sisters. So they've been like in our bubble the entire time for the last year. But he tells my nephew was just like sick for like 2 days, like he had a cold, and then he was like seemingly fine, but then they got him tested anyway, and that's when all mayhem broke loose.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, it is, and then the other thing is that when you get tested, not every center has 50 tests, right? And it's hard to get an appointment to get tested. Like I know in the city they have like probably.
Yeah, for us, for me, it's been, I mean, I think I've been tested like 30 times because when I was like doing certain performing stuff. Like they just, I feel like I've been swabbed. I was swabbed yesterday. So it's,
So we don't have like the rapid test option. So like when you're
Okay.
waiting, and then they call back the positive people first. So like you're very stressful, but then you don't hear back, and you're like, "Why? Is this good news? Is this bad news?" Like I don't know. And I've just felt like stuffy for the last, but I'm like I've also been inside and like not going outside because it's really cold, and I've not been like at the rink at all, and haven't left like society. So anyway. You know, heat on and all of that goodness. So
Yeah, exactly.
what a journey. What a journey.
I'll tell you what.
But the only good thing that has come out of this is that I bought War and Peace on Amazon Prime, and it's just been one of those things that I've wanted to watch forever. And I only watched the first episode, and then I never had a chance.
Oh, I thought you meant the Prokofiev opera. You don't.
Listen. We're watching the BBC version. It is beautiful. It is shot beautifully. There's good acting. There are people in it from Downton Abbey who are being Russian. It's so good. So good.
Amazing. I'll check that out.
Otilichna. Okay, it is just amazing. All right. So, anyway, getting back.
Silver medalist.
Isabeau. You really need Galena in your life. Yes.
Yeah.
Will she yell at you? Will she annoy you about this like bad habit that you're gonna do? Are you gonna fight with her about this bad habit? Well, you probably fight with your coach already. I'm guessing that this is like a contentious situation. In fact, you come to a standstill before he jumps. But at the end of the day, you're gonna fight and get through it, and then you're gonna wind up loving each other. And if you do, and I'm guessing that any girl who has a perfectly stretched toe and emulates Sasha Cohen to the nth degree, including her Y spin, is probably intense and stubborn and probably needs like someone to fight her.
Match that. Yeah.
Match that. And I think that this would be like a perfect match. Like of just wonderfulness. And Galena doesn't want to coach full time. So I think that you and her together, oh my God, the fireworks and oh my God, the competition, please do it on the elite session with Lindsay Thorngren. I would love the whole situation. I would like to watch.
Because it's like you say, it's otherwise this very special, intangible thing she has gets washed over and we don't hear from it.
I will change my schedule at work to sit and watch. Okay? I will. Excuse me.
You're a skating mom now. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know how we would do that with the pandemic. You know, some rinks you can like buy a feed, but it's only good if there are microphones. You know, we'll have to figure this out.
Yeah.
Maybe we could have like a drone filming in there and just like an on ice perspectives. But
maybe you can control it from your computer, and there's going to be like several in there.
Yeah. We need this from all angles. Okay. It needs to happen. Okay. All right.
Because I have to tell you, when our silver medalist came out, and I watched her immediately after, you were like, oh, here is power. Here is core strength. Here's
a girl who dresses up as Mary Poppins, inspired by Mao, and like thinks it's okay to do that at the nationals. And like,
it did have a toddlers and tiaras quality to it, the packaging for both the Mary Poppins.
It did what Mao did as well, but like cartoons are more accepted in Asia among adults. So it's just kind of like one of those,
yeah, this turned child pageant, especially in the pink frilliness, and it was a bit tough that way. But
because
what a powerful skater.
When I interned in China, like, you know, a lot of the other adults who were interning there that were from Shanghai, like, had like Minnie Mouse t-shirts on. And you're like, well, adults in the US don't really wear that, but there it's perfectly fine. So, you know, Mao doing a very literal Mary Poppins might be considered just fine there. And here it's like a bit juvenile. So
yeah, it didn't help her case because she has a mature strength to her skating.
She's so talented.
Yeah, it's quite impressive. Just the speed and the power and the spring from the legs.
Why do the Tammy Gamble skaters tend to have like a flat-footed quality? Do you ever notice that?
And I was nervous because in the short also there was a bit of an under rotation situation on the
I don't know if they're
combo.
landing on the whole blade, but there's some like flat-footed, and I can't like I have not figured out like what this is, right? But I notice it like a lack of articulation in the foot, and I see it a little bit in Karen Chen, and I see it through, I see it with Audrey Shin, and I was noticing a little bit with Canon. Now I heard this girl allegedly like flies back and forth to work with Tammy. I mean, we love this kind of skating situation, like Paul Wiley, who used to fly back between Carlo Fassi and John Nix. I mean, dream.
Like you do, yeah.
As one does with skating,
Right.
The thing is that Tammy is known for being more of a trainer and manager than a true technician, and someone who powers through, which is, I think, why we have not seen Karen Chen's Lutz technique really improve in the last, 18 years. But it's interesting because she's, currently having several flavors of the month, and it's going better for Tammy Gamble than it has been in a while. And
this was an exciting skate. I enjoyed
this
watching.
This girl has another je ne sais quoi that is very...
in a totally different way than Isabeau.
Yes.
But this kind of core strength was very... It felt a bit more of the Japanese school of skating, where there was so much in the knee and so much in the leg as she took off. It was really nice.
I really liked her free skate. I really liked it. There was one girl who was so funny. There was a girl in the Kiss and Cry who completely bombed, and she goes, "Well, that didn't go how I wanted." And you're like, "Oh, buddy,"
It is cute when they choose to monologue, or like in there, and someone was like, "Well, it is what it is," like all these like cliche isms that are just coming.
Well, they don't have a coach there with them to talk.
Right.
There was lots of like the Zoom thing happening behind the juniors. So, I think everyone went home who was monitoring that situation. So,
right.
Yeah, there's, it is awkward. And some of them were waiting for a really long time.
True. And to the point where that's when some of the announcements were happening, apologizing for the amount of time.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to throw a wrench in this right now, because I have to say, I love watching skating. Mm-hmm. Why is it so hard to figure this out? If I go to Peacock Premium, a service I am paying for, people complain to us about the timestamps. I love the people that do that for us. This is a free service, by the way.
Okay, here's the deal with NBC. Wait. Here's the deal with the timestamps that people, it's a double-edged sword, right? Skating is only relevant. Some people are only going to watch this recap for this much amount of time where it's in hyper relevancy, right? And then they move on. The thing is that we have one group of people that are like, "Where's the recap? Where's 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 the recap? How are you doing a recap today? Oh, Dave, I'm just messaging you. I was wondering if there's this and that today. I want to plan my day. Oh, are you doing a schedule? Oh, I'm going to tweet at you. Oh, can't wait for this and that today. Is this and that coming? Oh, I wanted to check. Is this and that going to happen?" Also, after we did like 20 live shows, oh, is there going to be a this and that tonight? And one person, I was like, "You have to be kidding." Like, right? And then they were like, "Oh, yeah." So that happens. So in order to get that out, the timestamps would be another 2-hour delay. But honey.
Right. But here's the thing.
Would you rather have it out quicker, or would you rather have the timestamps? I think most people would rather have it out quicker. And then the fans
that way,
seem to enjoy doing it. And then, you know what? Anyone who's that annoying, who's going to be like, "Oh, isn't there timestamps?" When you leave a comment, it just helps boost us on YouTube and the algorithm anyway. So, it all works out,
Exactly. But I mean, here's the thing. I think it's easier to find a this and that than it is to find these junior performances.
It doesn't show up on Peacock.
It is insane. I look up figure skating, I look up the skater's name, I look up the event.
No. You have to type up ladies. You can type in men.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Yeah. And they classify it as ice skating. So then suddenly I'm getting all of the speed track skating sort of like clips. And it's, again, I am someone who wants to seek this out. Like,
I also don't understand. This is the whole thing between like NBC and the Olympic Channel and NBC Sports Gold. And like, it's all very confusing because it seems that NBC has some sort of collaboration or ownership or something with them and the Olympic Channel that seems very undefined and like difficult to quite navigate, right? Then they also have NBC Sports Gold, and then there's NBC Sports net, maybe, right? But NBC Sports Gold, we just moved over there from Ice Network, right? And we were like a little bit happier that there was like a technological upgrade that was going on, because Ice Network, it never matched the music, especially if you're watching on a replay, like the audio and the video never matched up. And for anal retentive people who watch figure skating, really annoying. But it was like easier to find stuff at times. Then you go NBC Sports Gold. It's like, oh, that makes sense because we're watching all of the other Olympic stuff. But now it's as if they're putting like sports as just a tab under entertainment. And this whole thing like is like a cluster. And I get that NBC has now like a big universal, maybe they have like a whole umbrella corporate vision. But it is very confusing to operate. And they need to because before the Olympics happen, you need to do it. And it's because figure skating is happening before gymnastics, you know, people are not as familiar with the app just yet. So anyway, not a huge.
And I'm not a technical, like, problematic person. Apparently I can't speak, but I kind of know what I'm doing. So the fact that it is so difficult is just like another reason to be like, this is just going to fall away. More people would be watching this. US figure skating, that I wish that YouTube channel was putting up the short programs of the top three, was putting up.
Could not market themselves out of a paper bag. And the thing is that people are going to be like, well, NBC owns the rights. But even with USA Gymnastics, they have a similar arrangement with NBC, and they actually do post on their own YouTube channel the actual routines. It just goes to a sense of US figure skating being unable to get out of their own way.
Because when I went to the US figure skating YouTube channel, it was like a 2-week-old, like, what does Nathan like to eat for lunch? You know, montage that 5 people had viewed.
And then they don't know which programs to pick. And I forget which one it was, but we were trying to watch something from nationals. And I was trying to send it to someone. And it was as if they archived 2 of the top shorts in one discipline instead of the third. And you're like, and you can't forward something from the Peacock network to someone. It just makes it really harder to grow your ultimate viewer and your ultimate fan base, and it is very limiting. So anyway, that's why I post all the old events and, you know, grow viewership.
Which is my favorite, because I have to tell you, something like Jason's short program, The Sinnerman, this could have been viral.
You find that? That was it. It was Sinnerman. You could not find it, and it was getting taken down, but NBC didn't upload it themselves, and it was like, why are you on crack? This was the biggest moment that everyone was actually going to talk about. Yes, he's in 3rd place and the other 2 men did more quads, but this was the skating that people respond to, and this is the program that you need to put up. And this
in the same way they knew to put up Mariah's last year, even though she was 2nd. But I was like, there's no momentum here because everyone's sharing it, but from different people's random accounts.
Then someone random has to put it up on Facebook, and then what will happen is that if you try to put a video up like that on Facebook so that something can go viral, even if there's like, it's not the music people that get them. It will be NBC Sports who will copyright claim it, but they didn't post it themselves, and they'll get it taken down. But you're thinking like you're trying to grow it so that more people will actually wind up watching your ass feed. Like they're actually helping you because you don't have the foresight to put this up. And like, oh my God, you could, it's a rant. Okay. It's a rant. That there are not enough decision makers or people with it who know what is going on.
Who get it. Yes. Yeah. It was easier to watch the Canadian Challenge than it was to watch nationals.
And that was difficult too.
Yeah.
I mean, we can say, I will put this in the comment box, and then people will still go, where do I find this? And I'm like,
right.
I can't. And then they'll be like, oh, well, I only watch the parts that are relevant about this. And you're like, oh, well, that's when you want the timestamps. That's what happens, honey. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
But you could read that, but not this. But like, anyway, just, you know.
A loss. Okay. Hey, there was that random girl that did the quad who was in like 8th place.
So that random girl was from the same rink as Alyssa Liu in Oakland, and her name is Mia, and she was the only U.S. lady to attempt a quad in this competition, and she's currently 12. So, and again, U.S. figure skating didn't promote that. Now, I know that there might be a question in the rotation, but she was the only one who even went for it here.
Right.
But then
technically the only US lady in all, yeah.
So that's the strange thing about US figure skating, is that we really don't know how to figure out when do we give the points to someone doing a clean program, and then when do we push someone to do the quad? And then we get like a Jason Brown situation where Phil Hirsch asks him for 10 years, when are you going to go for the quad? But he keeps winning versus not doing the quad. But then he is better than someone like Vincent, who goes for all the quads and then doesn't have any of the skating skills. It's like the age-old, right. It's just a mess, right? But I think you have to reward both. And anyway, it's this is why you need really accurate judging. You know, just like really astute
or consistent.
Yes.
And I think there are some, you know, this American sentiment that we're going to hold on to nostalgic style figure skating, which is great. I love what you're advocating for, but not if you want to be relevant internationally. The Russians would have all gotten behind Mia and figured it out and pushed her up.
Well, she has a
That's
coach.
who they would have.
So she's coached by,
and they would have bailed on Isabeau a long time ago and gotten all behind Mia.
I wouldn't bail on this. I would direct her to make intelligent choices. And I just worry that Justin Dillon isn't the guy, because he's kind of a politician. He's friends with Lindsay Weber, who's the biggest politician ever. She was famous for being friends with Tara Lipinski and petitioning to nationals every year. They actually used to call like when they stopped the petitions to nationals through injuries, they called it the Lindsay Weber rule. Of course, Mitch Moyer was Lindsay's coach. So there's just like all of this like political stuff from like back in the day. And these were people who were always like on the athletes council and acted like they loved US figure skating. But then you're thinking like, what did Justin Dillon do as a coach to develop people to get to the job where he is? Did he get it because he was really advanced? Or did he and Mitch get to those positions because they had enough friends like on the PSA? What is the real story there? Because in my like estimation, I've always felt that someone that should be a high performance director should be someone like Marina Zueva, who's going to tell you the truth to your face, right? Like that to me would be
who has proven time and time again that her vision and assessment of the skaters is always right on.
Now we have like a Tom Forrester situation in USA Gymnastics, or Mitch in this one. You're like, well, what are they really advising? What tangible? And Canada has the same problem with Slipchuck. So yeah, it's an age-old question of like, what the heck do you do? And okay, so the junior national champion Eric Prober, right? He trains on public sessions. Now he also changes coaches.
When I read that, he did his challenge, or you know, whatever they were calling that, sectional sort of thing, on a public session. You can't cover the full ice. You can't.
Why is someone like that not being funded more by US Figure Skating to get him off of the public session? Hopefully he will be now. But that's like a concerning thing. Like, where are we spending our resources? Are we spending it on
again?
videos?
He said it was because it was something with his online school situation. But I think if the private ice had made itself available,
don't you go to online school to be more flexible so that you can go? Is this just because of like quarantine and Zoom, or?
It just said because of online school, but it seemed pretty vague.
There's a story there, because even if you are, let's say your school district makes you go online at a certain time, because people are going to say, well, my online school is, you know, makes me go this time. Yeah. Are you the junior national champion in skating? No. So they are probably, you know, when you do things on Zoom, you get a recording. So you could always make him, right? Like there are ways to go around. There's a story there, I'm telling you. Okay.
Yeah, I think so too.
I don't want to say like eyes on the situation, but eyes on that situation. Okay.
And then after I read that, I thought like something about his performance was you could almost see the public session happening while he was skating in the short. Like there was this sort of like hesitancy to like open up and own the space and take up space. But as you've discussed, and like is your beef with Galina at times, like it's tough to own that space on a public session.
Definitely a straight boy skating. Comes through loud and clear. They don't do well by owning the space. You know, they may not be as into the Alexander. They don't even know what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a plague. It's hurting skating. I know. You know, like when you ever watch anyone in the John Curry company, they were at no risk for developing skating while heterosexual. Okay, there was at no risk going to anyone in that company. Okay, and they were all beautiful with soft knees and mesmerizing.
And they own the space. I love the one you posted with Laurie Nickel. Yeah,
Laurie Nickel. Which, okay, how come like in Christine Brennan's book, it is, first of all, Shep Goldberg must have just been Christine's real source, okay? One day I'm going to get her to admit this, because even as a kid, I remember being like, this book reads a bit like a love note, and I can't explain like why. It's not that she did anything inappropriate, but it's in the details. It's in the fact that she's writing about Laura Nickel choreographing for Janet Lynn, like in the middle of her living room, and Tara's skating to movie soundtracks, but she's skating to Gymnopédia, you know, and you're like, wait a second. And I posted those videos this week and I had a freaking moment. I was like, wait a second. We acted like Lori was just a genius, and she's very, very smart. But she literally, it was not like she was in some like music library for hours and hours and hours finding something. She just took something that was in the John Curry show that everyone forgot about in 84 and put that in the middle of Michelle Kwan's program, and we called it something else. But that was just like,
composers do it all the time. Yeah.
It was just a number that she had Michelle skate to from the John Curry program, and it fit her, and it was great. And it was a great choice, Lori. But I'm just saying, the way it was characterized, it was as though Lori Nickel found the Dead Sea Scrolls of music. And
discovered,
and that she discovered the Gospels of Mary Magdalene and Thomas, and that's what Michelle Kwan was skating to.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
Slightly different. Just saying that, like, there's a vibe. It's not both of Christine's books. It's only the second one where you're like, okay. You know what it was? When the moment that I think even though I'm a Michelle Kwan fan, you might say, maybe a little bit, allegedly, right?
Slightly, yeah. We all are.
When they say in the book that, like, and she says this with no shade attached, and Christine is so shady in that book and in her other book, because remember, that's how we learned about Aunt Joyce and everything, that Michelle is going to relax at the Olympics by conjugating French verbs, and she doesn't throw any shade about that to being like, maybe this isn't a kid who's being allowed to be a kid. You know, Christine, like, maybe, you know, I'm not saying that you're shady. I'm just saying that maybe Tiger Woods thinks so. Okay. I was recently watching that documentary. I'm not going to call Christine shady, but I think that maybe Ryan Lochte or Michael Phelps or Tiger Woods might feel that Christine can be a little bit snarky. I don't know. Maybe.
Perhaps.
Rumor has it.
Yeah.
Quizás, Isabeau Levito. Okay.
Yes, look at us.
Anyway.
And it's French, so it's the perfect tie-in.
Look at me conjugating French verbs to relax, you know.
Next stop, Olympics. Yeah, okay.
I actually do things like walk around inside to get my steps and relax while I'm learning Russian. But I don't. Do I learn Russian to relax? No, but I find it intellectually interesting. But am I relaxing?
Yeah. Well, and it does sort of, I mean, there is something to it directing your focus into a totally different way. But do I think that was what she was doing? I don't know.
No, they also sent her Titanic to watch when she was at the Olympics. That's what she was doing to relax. She was watching.
Who wants to watch that? Who wants to watch Titanic before you're about to compete?
Excuse me, that was the biggest freaking movie, and to watch
I know, but it's about a giant failure. Who would want to watch a giant failure before you have to go compete?
Love story, and it had Celine Dion, and it was probably the movie that Michelle Kwan felt like she was missing out on if her father didn't push her into skating and make her train 1 million hours a day and, like, you know, siphon her off from the rest of the Olympic Village and probably putting some pressure on her at those games. Allegedly.
Exactly. And then remember, I felt like Scott shaded her for that choice as if it was hers.
They were subtly suggesting tiger parenting, I feel, right? or that like, I think there was a vibe. Scott was definitely Team Tara. He definitely just like liked an intangible thing about her. But I think there was maybe a slight holier than thou appointed attitude, but at the same time, it was also like real. Like there was extra pressure on her and expectations and injury, and she wasn't just another Olympian going there. And I think Scott has like this like vibes, but he also might have been somewhat right, although she stayed in the village. Didn't she stay in the village 4 years later, and it didn't help her? So whatever.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly.
She also went coach.
He just had something weird.
You know, there are different variables there. So
yeah, of course.
But there was
what about
inherent shade, you know? I think, and then there was so much debate at that time between pro skating and amateur skating, even though amateur skating was getting a lot of money. So they were acting like it was like a business trip. You know, there was so much shade happening in the 90s. So many like other things.
A lot of resentment. That's what I was getting from certain commentators like Scott, a resentment about the scene.
Well,
that had nothing to do with the skater in front of them.
Nothing to do with the skating. It was just like a weird situation. I think that like skater A is getting paid $100,000 to go to an event, and yet they're treating the pros like pariahs in some respect. Like there's a lot of ISU stuff that goes on. So
one might.
Speaking of the ISU, how the heck are we going to have the World Championship? So the rumor is that they are pushing ahead to have it, right? Which I think is right. Like whatever you think about the vaccine and like quarantining and whatever. It seems like they're going to push to do it.
Well, but it's interesting because they were talking about in some of the articles that came out this week about the Tokyo Olympics, they were saying that they needed to like vaccinate 11,000 athletes and but like a lot of those athletes come from countries that aren't even distributing vaccines. So it becomes very, it's not just because of the US plan with vaccines, now everybody's fine. You know, I mean, we're literally talking about an international scene. How
then
does
you
one
get into the
regulate
political situation, like, is an athlete worth more than an average 55-year-old person who may need this vaccine and have a co-occurring morbidity, right? So you get into like a weird, yes, we all want to watch it. And the fans are like, I want my Olympics. And like, yes, I understand that, but you have to put this in like the bigger context of what is ethically correct.
Appropriate, yeah.
No, the Olympics are never about ethics, as we have seen throughout history. We only pretend, Sidious, Aldius, Fortius, but then, you know, what was it remember when they had tried to have the Olympics in Utah and they were like buying members of the IOC prostitutes? Like, you know, there's a long history of how this happens. Putin putting the Winter Olympics in a summer resort. I mean, like lots of sketch and shade and with every single Olympics. But you get into, are they going to move them? Are they going to have it in 2021? Are they going to try to push it? And then why? And then all of that. And it gets into a really tricky thing. Ultimately, they may have...
Well, it was crazy that article came out and was just fake. The one from the Times or whatever.
What does your gut say about, what do you think happened journalistically?
You think that was just like a source was telling them and they're like, we're not ready to make that statement?
I think that probably someone on one of those there's probably debates happening. And it seems like the Japanese people feel one way, but maybe there's a lot of pressure from the IOC in another way, and a lot of money at stake. And maybe someone spoke out of turn and said something, and then they had to, because look, if it were just a normal rumor, the IOC would say nothing, right? And it would be like, oh, it's just the Daily Mail. Who gives a shit? No, they came out like guns blazing, which means that they are, their backs are up against the wall. If someone cares that much for that big of a reaction, something is up. Like, something is up, or they know that it's ethically wrong and they are defensive, but there is some sort of a, look, it's like if someone says this to you and you react like this, right? Like,
right. Yeah, it's something is weird. And that in the articles they were talking about, Japan was hoping all of its citizens would be vaccinated before the Olympics. And their absolute refusal to have it be without the crowds, because of course that's where they're gonna regain all that money. But the fact that they won't even consider that seems questionable to me.
it's going to be fascinating over the next couple months. So are they going to have the Worlds in March? But then there's also rumors that they could push it to May. Well, if you push it to May, then you think about that's usually when skaters are doing shows or getting new programs, and then you push into their preparation.
That has an adverse effect for Beijing. That totally messes with Beijing. And what about these poor athletes who right now are going to train as if it's going forward? That's exactly, I think, what they should be doing. Plan like the Worlds are happening. And then you're going to tell them, just kidding, now you're ready to peak in March, but I need you to keep going until May.
Again, like I was just thinking about KMT and Michael. They did not look ready at that event. But if you think that they're going to have a nationals later, then they it would make sense that they're not peaked yet, right? That they have more time. But then it's like we weren't going to have Worlds, and then now we are. And then you're scrambling like, wait, adult nationals are actually happening? Like, what's going on? And you're like, okay.
Right.
So now like the Worlds are somehow happening? And you're like, okay, so this is going to happen. Meanwhile, we've had several competitions in Russia that have been super spreader events. Let's call that what it is, right? And you move along, and yes, we all want to have skating, but do you want to compete at a Worlds if that means that you could have lasting lung damage that will then impact you in the future? Do you want to go to Worlds that badly, or would you rather have the vaccine first, right? And many athletes are not thinking, but then you need to Olympic spots, and then they could also get it at Nebelhorn, because usually there are two opportunities.
So how was this happening with US nationals? Like, how is it that they handled these bubbles and these athletes arriving from different parts of the country?
Well, let's be honest. US figure skating is in a very red city, right? Decision making as it was, they bought the time by we're nationals, and they were moving through ahead. They had that TV contract, and they were going with it, honey.
Yeah.
They do have good protocols there, but also people get sick on flights. Paige Rydberg did get sick once she got there. Luckily, we haven't heard about other people getting sick at Skate America, so they probably did a pretty good job. And I think from that, now you're looking at other people. I think when you travel to other countries, there gets to be different policies and different situations. And then there's what about the people? There have been no international competitions, so no one has a qualifying score. And then what about Alexa and Brandon? They haven't competed at a true international, because remember, as we learned from the ISU, when Phil Hirsch was trying to ask them pointed questions about Cup of Russia and that behavior, they said, well, those are really domestic competitions this year and not international competitions, even though they have the same name. So does their Skate America score count or not? Or do they have to fly to another place like The Hague, then quarantine again, and then compete? Or are you just going to give people the allotment to compete? There are a lot of logistical questions to work out.
Well, and we saw that like Papadakis and Cizeron said no thanks to Worlds.
So then, okay, if they don't go, did they have to go to Nebelhorn in the fall, or did they just have to pray that the second-rate French ice dance team places well enough, which they probably will not? And remember, they both had the coronavirus, and quite significantly, I think they wrote, about taste and smell in that situation. I think Gabby especially. So then you go into that. And you're like, wait, or are they just going to compete at Nebelhorn? I mean, obviously they deserve to be at the Olympics, but then you get into the second, they deserve to be at the Olympics, but how do you actually secure them a spot?
Right. Well, and again, I'm just if you have this World holds such significance, literally for the logistics of numbers of entries for Beijing. So how are you divvying that up if you don't have a Worlds?
Look, they're going to wind up having a Worlds. It's so funny because Canada was trying to do the right thing. And I believe that when Canada said that they didn't want to send their skaters, that they were, Canada tries to play nice with the ISU. Ever since post 2002, they got really behind the IJS, and they got really invested and really more politically astute in a certain way. So it seems like, wait, Canada wasn't going to go to Worlds, and this is so irresponsible. And then in the last couple of weeks, once it's been kind of signaled that, wait, we are going to try to push to have Worlds happen. Now they're trying to figure out which skaters to send and how to do it, because they canceled their nationals but want to have a World. It's a mess.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden Canada is backtracking, which also makes you look kind of buffoonish when you were like, we're going to boycott. Oh, wait, we're not boycotting. We're going to go.
Yeah. Well, all of these logistics, you're being asked to commit or not commit. and you kind of almost need to be in the moment a bit with it, because everything is changing so often. I just feel like all these countries that do end up going, like you're saying, I think the French ice dance example is the perfect example of are you even going to base it on the world's results if you do have a world's, because it's going to be so confusing who ends up going and who's able to perform well and who's not. And
there's always a degree of rigging, but we're getting into a situation where they may just have to be blunt and be like, these are the countries that deserve which spots and this is how it is. But then that doesn't, right? Or make the results match, right? And
that's why I wonder, as we think about like outcry over someone like Amber Glenn being left off the world team or something like this, I think it can really work to her advantage, because what a confusing thing to be a part of. I do not envy the skaters that are just in flux at the moment.
It's a mess. The whole situation is a mess.
And again, I feel like what
I was talking to someone this morning who's like, well, there are events in Belarus where you can go and get a minimum score. And I said to this person, yeah. And is that a place you'd want to go and trust to go during a pandemic right now?
Right. If you don't trust going to Sweden for the Worlds, why would you trust going to this B event in Belarus?
And then this person was like, I don't know how to answer this question, because
yeah,
it's a really tense, like, difficult topic, and like your view on the disease and everything like that, and then you balance that with the Olympic qualification. And are the Olympics even going to happen? That's the thing, is that we won't know until they tell us definitively what is going to happen with the Tokyo Games, what will happen with the Beijing Games.
Yeah.
Because this is all for nothing if those games get postponed a year. Who the hell cares about going to these Worlds in Sweden?
Right.
Other than kissing the behind of your federation, do you really care if you're going to go? So, I don't know.
It's tricky. Yeah.
Unless you're like the Russians, where you just pretend like
everything's normal.
Everything's normal. We will or won't wear masks and herd immunity. And they're now going to have a team event. It seems very suspect because, okay, it was going to their fake Europeans were going to be like originally a legitimate competition. Now we're having something where
Ice Wars
are like team captains against each other, and then Lesha Yagutin is going to be skating in it. I mean, I cannot wait to watch this like hot mess of a situation. Like, is he going to do the race car program? Could we have? And come on, if you're going to have Yagutin, I know that he's coaching, but you got to get Plushenko's ass in that competition on the other team. Okay, come on. You put Yagutin on Zagitova's team, they commentate together. Then you put Plushenko on Medvedeva's team.
But these teams, like, does that mean Zagitova and Medvedeva are skating, or they're just figureheads of these teams?
Well, I certainly hope we get an exhibition from both, and maybe we'll judge accordingly.
Because I'm like, if you're not skating, what does a team member do?
And I don't want this like new Medvedeva exhibition of her like skating some poem that a Terry likes. Okay, no. If these girls are going to be leading teams, obviously Zagitova needs to do whatever that thing she did, that Overbook program that she did, and Medvedeva needs to do a Billie Eilish original. It needs to be more dramatic than her laying on the ice and wearing a straitjacket. Okay, it is what we all want. It is how we're going to get the viral moment, and you got to make it a little bit fun. Okay, because like last time I checked, neither one is jumping great. Okay,
yeah.
I don't think either one is in any danger of making the Olympics at this point. So I think you just got to camp it up. And you know what? I want to see Zagitova doing that program and Medvedeva doing Billie Eilish. It's what we want.
And it's going to be more of a showdown. I mean, this will be very interesting. Like seeing the ladies that have entered the event and the men.
Is Kosternaya going to compete? She says that she's training.
Right.
She like gave some interview in Japan where she was like saying that, there was music drama with Terry, as if that's the only reason she left. Okay, but let's be honest. And
it looked like Aliev was going to be there, who we've not seen because he had to withdraw. Yes. But I mean, just to see him back in the mix could be very interesting. I don't know how they divvy up these teams. They said they're drawing them on the spot. like live on television, they're going to be drawing the teams.
Like the results of the Russian election. Do you believe that?
I mean, yeah, they have some stuff going on at the moment, don't they? Yeah. So.
No, how about Plushenko saying that he wants the whole country, the whole world to know about his athletes and remember them for the great contribution to figure skating? Yeah.
I think maybe have the athletes for a while. Yeah.
Yes.
And then we can worry about that.
How about when he was like pulling a Kim Kardashian, like showing us where they were all living? Like, I don't even know. But
Yeah. And what was this fight he was having?
Okay.
It was hard for me to understand.
Can he please like plan his fights around like our schedule? Because like it never is. And I didn't even do a video about it because at some point I was thinking, this is getting too ridiculous. This is not dissimilar to that scene in War and Peace where there's like, I don't know all their names yet, but like this like really pretty girl with like the dark hair was having like an incestuous relationship with her brother, maybe, sort of. And then she marries the nerd who inherits all the money, but she's cheating on him with his best friend, who's like some brute guy. And then this guy finds out that his wife is like two-timing him, and then he charges the guy to a duel, which is pretty much what happened with Evgeny Plushenko and Alexei Zaleshnyakov.
They were literally challenging, like we're doing Eugene Onegin or something. It's like suddenly we're drawing dual things, and they're talking about
very
bigger pectorals or something.
But I don't understand, like, what were we fighting over? What started the fight? That's what I missed.
Yeah, well, because it was the lower level choreographer for Etiri that he said something without any, basis behind it and withdrew the comment and was sorry about it.
But what did he originally say?
And that's what we can't find. Yeah. Insane.
I don't know. I couldn't even follow this situation. But in my mind, Plushenko won because the other guy then backed down.
Yeah, and both of their wives told him to stand down or something. There was like
you think Yana tells him to stand down? Please, don't talk about Yana that way. I believe Yana is like, did you not see when they asked her in her questions, which she could have chosen to ignore this one, what do you think about Eteri Tugberidze? And she goes, she knows what I think about her. Incredible. I do not think that this woman told anyone to stand down.
Okay. I'd have to reread what she was telling him.
That's so strange. Amazing. Okay, come on. All right.
But wait, now speaking of Russians, and we're going to now bring this back to the US, this pair team that are our junior national champions right now, are they of Russian descent or are they just Russian names?
Did you see the last names?
I mean, I saw the last name, but I didn't know if they were like second or third generation or something, or if they were first generation.
They have Russian names in there. In figure skating, that is some first generation behavior.
And they had, I mean, although there were lots of doubles and throws and side by sides, I have to say that their overall skating quality as a pair was very much non-American. And you were like, whoa, this looks like real deal pairs skating skills here.
All I have to say about the pairs is I am so blinded by the fact that I'm Facebook friends with one of the pair mothers.
Oh, I see.
And let me explain this to you, is that like I believe that all skating mothers are special, especially during national qualifying season.
Yes.
But if your child has already maybe not made it in singles and moved to the pairs, I think that you've reached a next level of intensity, right?
Or desperation.
This mother, always outspoken in a great way. And I enjoy this mother, but when I think someone's intense.
Yes.
It was as if there was a live streaming of intensity and thoughts that were happening on there.
Okay.
One COVID test down. Second one is happening. Whoa. This mother has been...
The anxiety, yeah.
This mother has been in skating mom heat. Okay. I will just say that, like, they're allegedly, maybe, rumor has it that they're... someone... may have like, maybe they meddled, maybe there was like a thank you note written to the partner. I was like, there's just been a lot happening. There was like a TV interview happening. I've been watching the journey and being like, whoa.
Okay.
Whoa.
I couldn't get over the amount of
Jonathan,
Disney
I'm gonna
Halloween
tell you who to follow.
costumes.
No, you just have to like follow this situation. Like,
Okay.
this is a development. Okay. So we have a
What-
skating who went to pairs at the junior level instead of waiting to senior. And then I even noticed that like coaches of this pair are writing like long posts, like thanking them and encouraging them before. And I'm like, well, this is all to curry favor. Like when Thompson
Okay.
wrote that thing about, about the under rotations not being under for Vincent's mother, obviously, my opinion. Anyway, I'm watching this from afar, very entertained, yet frightened, but entertained. Frightened, not because I think the person would do it. I think there's just a lot of intensity there that I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of energy. Okay. It was a lot.
But now, just to be clear, you're not saying what pair we're talking about. Did they medal?
They may have wound up on the podium. I mean, enough.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. We can leave it at that.
Look, I'm just saying that, like,
are you pulling it up?
I'm just looking at there's like a post every hour. Okay. And like maybe even there was like memes made of like the choreography. The hair flip is back. I didn't know that there was a hair flip. There was a thank you post. There was a picture post. Yesterday at 3:58, there was a picture of the partner putting a medal on the daughter's head. Also, there was another post at 3:58 of the daughter putting the medal on the partner's head. Now, those are two different posts. They weren't like two pictures put together, which like would be sufficient. No, we needed to have one post in your timeline of one and then have the exact mirror happening. Okay.
It was something interesting Jenny was talking about when we were
then,
doing
whoa,
seal.
3:29. So that was at 3:58. But at 3:29, this mother said, go find, well, it was someone who's maybe connected to John Coughlin, so I'm not gonna like say that, but like go on their Insta story and watch their story about him watching my kids free skate, my favorite thing ever. At 3:15, so this is 14 hours before, there was another post that said, we're just boarding to leave Vegas, and I got, we have an airport update. At 1 o'clock, there was a shared post from your friend Georgine, posting this. Of course, she knows all of these people, where she then shared this. At 12:41, Georgine shared the video of this person. So 19 minutes apart, Georgine had two different posts. And this one, she was saying about how wonderful this pair is. Of course, we shared that. At 11:18, there was a post of someone's maybe younger sibling watching this pair. At 11:03 a.m., there was a post of someone of the pair hugging that was then shared. At 10:06 a.m., there was this team doing an interview. At 8:09 a.m., there was thank you.
I think this is an important question. How many people are liking these posts?
Like 116. I feel that they know. Listen, you know that you have to like that post. I don't think I've been liking it enough. I'm probably in trouble for not liking these posts. I just can't encourage this amount of intensity. I'm frightened, okay?
Yeah, it's too much, and it's not, how is this good for the pair?
I support, it was a beautiful program. I support it. I just think you need a show to binge watch because this parent has a job. It's not like this is one of the parents who just does Pilates or plays tennis. No, this parent has a job and they're still just like.
And they're still making their child's sport the most important thing in their life. And I think that's when it's so dangerous.
Shared by someone else. Oh my God, there was a post of them at 11:49 p.m. the night before about them doing the pair team doing a lift with masks on in front of the Bellagio fountain. 10:57 p.m. there was a shared post that came up in memories of the daughter with Hubble and Donahue. At 10:56 p.m., there was a shared post of that same daughter from the same national, same sweater, then with Kane and LeDuc also being shared. I guess she took a picture with all of the women, maybe like a Friends of Figure Skating banquet, who knows. Then there was a memory from 2019 when the pair boy was on the podium. 10:53 p.m. there was another post. Oh my God!
I have to be honest, Dave. I've totally stopped paying attention. I'm like, okay, she's nuts.
Wait,
like,
they're showing the hug again. There's just like a lot happening. There is just like a lot happening, and I'm saying like I'm taken aback.
It's too intense. How can anyone thrive if that's around them? That's not the right kind of competitive energy that someone needs to be around, in my opinion.
So when I told Natasha that I was working with Galina, her first question after I was like, how is Mievskaya? And she goes, one of my students took from her. Her mother tried to stand near Galina during the lesson, and apparently Galina turned to her and said, I'm coaching your daughter, not you. And maybe she told her to get lost.
Should they have to? Because it's then when these parents also start like becoming another kind of coach, but without any information, just repeated information. This would happen in singing, or in music in general. When you do these like master classes, then everyone listening to the master class now thinks that they have the authority to say the same kind of criticism directly to that instrumentalist or singer. And you're like, get out of here. You being around what someone is saying does not mean you know.
This is why Oksana Bayul was the ideal student. She didn't have a mother. She literally didn't have a mother, Jonathan. Okay.
No one was interfering. Yeah. I mean, terrible, but yes, but no one was interfering with the process. Yeah, that's tough, especially because it's interesting at like a junior level. What kind of technical content are you hoping your pairs have? Because I have to say the technical content, I mean, the Russian pair had some beautiful lift moments and some gorgeous skating skills. But again, we were dealing top to bottom with a lot of double throws, a lot of double side-by-sides. It was a bit, like, I wonder what the standard
I always
is.
think the best way is to wait until you get all of your triples and then go to pairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that there is talent. There's just a lot of intensity.
Yeah. Isn't that fascinating?
Like, and then even in the, I think the pair and dance worlds are even more dramatic than we can understand. Because yesterday I got a text from parents that said that Hubble and Donahue, one of their parents, was saying that the Shibutanis asked to work with Marie France. And I was like, is this true? Or is this people just like speculating, right? So I texted her directly, and Marie France said absolutely not, that did not happen. Think about these parents, Justin. I am just saying.
Yeah. And to what end? What does that do? What are we focusing on? I mean, very strange.
This is why everyone just needs to take a break and watch War and Peace. The beautiful sets, the British people pretending to be Russian, the beautiful costumes, the beautiful people. Everyone needs to just relax.
Yeah, we're okay. Everybody's okay.
Conjugate French verbs. Relax.
Amazing.
Okay, like.
Yeah. Do something. Do something.
I mean, there's a lot happening. I cannot wait for this fake European competition, I have to tell you. I mean,
I think it's going to be a bit exciting because I have to tell you, it's tough when you watch like a junior event like this. Like, for instance, the top two ice dance teams here were very lovely.
Karen Chen's brother, this is why he's the opposite of Karen. He skated without an ACL. I mean, talk about boot problems.
Who needs one? Yeah, exactly. Turns out you're fine. Just fake it. Yeah.
He was the winner.
Yeah. And they lovely. I mean, both of them just very lovely. Nice speed, nice flow. But, you know, so it will be fun to have sort of more dynamic personalities and the drama and the stuff of this Russian team event.
The personalities are there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe the Russian parents need to be on Facebook, because the stories of those.
Well, some are. Yeah.
Well, the stories are always like, this one is threatening to punch this one, and this one's threatening to punch this coach. I mean,
well, my God, yeah, they're just following the example led by the choreographers and coaches. Like, oh my goodness.
I challenge you to a duel, Jonathan.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna win. I got to shoot a gun? Forget it.
Hold an edge and look sexy, everyone.
I was like, he's still recording.